When I was still in high school, I started going to the drag strip um, and drag racing, which is organized and legal, as opposed to street racing. And then, when I got married and had the two children, of course, the first few years it was just struggling to get by. And after the girls had got to be older, and my wife and I had moved from one home to another, um, and we were doing very, very well. I would say we were middle class people at that time, um, and I decided that I wanted a real race car. So I started looking around, and I knew I wanted a dragster. This is a machine built just for racing, nothing else. And what I wanted is called a rail. And a rail is, it's four wheels and a tubular frame and a big engine. And that's what I wanted. So I started looking around and figuring out what I could do to get into this, because it was quite expensive at the time. And by this time, I knew quite a few people who raced in one form or another, and I went to the drag strip a lot as a spectator and very interested in the cars. And so after I decided that this is what I wanted to build or be in, I started looking around, and I had a Corvette at the time, which was a hot rod, and another family car. And so I thought, well, maybe I can get rid of the Corvette. And this is my second Corvette by this time, or third. This is my third Corvette. And I'd gone to earlier years. With Corvettes, it's kind of like an antique thing. You know, the older one you could get, the better it was, the more expensive it was. And so I had gotten a 56 Corvette, and there weren't very many 56s made. I mean, maybe at the most a couple thousand of them. So I had done quite a little work on it, and I'd changed most of the engine and the transmission. I'd done all the body work on the car myself, and got it squared away and painted, and wheels and tires and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought, the Corvette's got to be worth something. And so I put it up for sale in a hot rodding magazine. And it took quite a while, but I got a guy interested in it. And he was from Nebraska. He was in California at the time. And he had bought pieces to a dragster. Well, what he had was the chassis, if you will, the frame, which was tubular chromoly steel with an aluminum body, a narrow differential for the rear end, and a chrome front axle from drag racing. And this whole setup, that part of it, was made by a guy who specialized in dragsters. His name was Woody Gilmore. And Woody wasn't a racer himself. He liked sailboats, but he built great race cars. So this car was a Woody Gilmore car, which is race car engineering. And I ended up trading my Corvette for the chassis only. Now, there wasn't any wheels or tires, engine, transmission, or anything that came with it, just the chassis. So I got that for my Corvette, and I started building it. You know, it was a hobby, and it was an expensive hobby. And I built, piece by piece, I built an engine for the car. I modified the chassis. The chassis had been made for a Chrysler engine. I built a Chevrolet because Chevrolets were plentiful and cheap compared to Chryslers. And so that's what I had decided to do. So I built a Chevrolet engine. I modified the frame to fit the Chevrolet instead of the Chrysler. And I built the driveline, which was what's called a clutch can and an open drive shaft and the differential. And so I did all of that and got the engine, got it running, built exhaust for it and everything. And it was, at this time, it was a clutch car, which meant that there was no transmission. It was direct drive only with a clutch. And that you'd have to push start the car. So I used my family car, which at the time was a Pinto, because we went from Corvettes to Pintos so that we could save enough money to build a race car. So we would use the Pinto to push start the race car. We lived in a tract, if you will, of townhouses. And we had a nice townhouse on a little street that was almost like an alley. And we would fire up this race car on this little strip and run it down the strip in our neighborhood, you know, totally illegal. And
I'm sure the neighbors loved you.
they absolutely loved me. Straight exhaust and all. So anyway, make a long story short, the driveline didn't work out. I had to modify it and build a transmission that would work in the car. At that time, the best deal going was to go with an automatic transmission, and you had to greatly modify it. I mean, greatly modify it. Like it went from being 30 inches long to being 20 inches long, and on and on and on. And I went through all of that, which meant that I had to greatly modify the chassis too, because I had to move the engine again. I had to mount the transmission. I had to get a room for a starter. And the starter was so big that it hung outside the frame, and on and on and on. Anyway, make a long story short, I got it running. The guy that I bought the chassis from ended up driving it for me when I first had it running. He'd come from Nebraska. He'd come out. We'd run the car. He'd like vacationing. And we worked on the car to try and get it going better and better and better. And then he and I had a falling out. It just, you know, wasn't working out. He wanted to do things on my car, and I didn't want to do them now. And so I went on to get a professional driver's license. I was fortunate enough that one of the guys I worked with, he was crew chief for a race car that was several classes above me. In drag racing, when you go to get a professional license, you have to do several things. You have to have a physical, which is the same as a pilot has to have. You have to do X number of runs in a race car at different challenges. Like a quarter of a mile race, you weren't allowed to do it first. You ran the car for an eighth of a mile, you shut it off, and you coasted the rest of the way until they felt comfortable at the racetrack that you weren't going to jeopardize anybody else. And in drag racing, one of the major things is thou shalt never cross over the center line. You have your lane, your opponent has the other lane. So you go through these stages. Now when you get to the final stages, there's several things that have to be. You have to get a official from the racetrack to sign for you. You have to get an inspector from the racetrack to sign that your car meets all the specs required. Then you have to have 3 drivers of professional classes above yours sign for you for runs. Then your runs have to be within 10% of the class record of the class you're applying for a license in. Now at this time, my class, which was Class B gas dragster, the record in it at that time was right at 9 seconds for a quarter of a mile, and with a speed of, I want to say, 175 or thereabouts. And about the best I could get my car to was 9 seconds, and which was just at the limit for being too slow to get a license. And then my speed was 151. And so I just barely got within the 10% of the class record. So in this class at that time, there were about 200 cars in the United States. Now, a great number of the drivers in those cars never got a professional driver's license because they couldn't get their cars to go within 10% of the record. Mine did. My car ended up being about 4th fastest in that class in the nation. But that's the best I could ever get it to go. So.
Gotcha. And so you get the driver's license, and is it just like, okay, now I have a drag car licensed, and that's kind of like where you plateau, or did you like hit a bunch of different races? Like, walk me through that.
Well, I at that time, there were a couple of racetracks still left in Southern California. There was Long Beach, which was just dying, if you will. It was being done away with. There was Orange County, which was a new track, and there was another one in the valley. So the Orange County was the nearest track to me. So I ran my car for the rest of the time that I had it at Orange County only. And a race car of that class, you could run at this particular track that I was going to, you could run it Wednesday evenings and Saturday afternoon and evening. And with this class of a race car, for any day that you would go out, you would only get to go down the drag strip 4 times in a day. That's all there was time for because there were so many cars there. I mean, at the racetrack, there would be hundreds of race cars.
Gotcha.
And
it's kind of like in a way, it's kind of like a golf course, which you just got to play through sometimes. You know?
exactly like that. Okay? Yeah. And if, Saturday's booked up from starting time at dawn to starting time late in the afternoon where you're playing until dark at night, right? So same kind of thing. So, and with a race car of this class, what you'd have to do is we'd make the 4 runs twice a week. Okay, I'd work my job on Wednesday. I'd get off, go home. We'd hook the race car trailer to the car. We'd drive about 20 miles to the racetrack. You get the car inspected. It has to be inspected every time you go out there. Make sure that everything is, safe. And then you make your 4 runs. And that took from the time I got off work to drive there to time to get home. We didn't get home on Wednesday nights until midnight usually. And so then come Thursday, I'd get off work, and Thursday would be tearing the car apart. Because with a dragster of this type, you're going to have to go into the engine every week. Okay? And since I'm trying to race twice a week now, it means tearing the car apart and putting it back together twice a week. And with a race car of this type, since I had quite a background working for an aircraft company and realizing what safety meant, there were a lot of things on the race car that I did like you would do on an airplane. That was all of the bolts that held the engine in the car, held the axles and so forth onto the car, and transmission and all of that. All of those bolts and nuts for me were replaced every week. So it had a lot of replacements in a week. And I'd tear the engine apart. And at first, when I was first running the car, I was new at this class. And since I had friends, thank God, at upper levels from me, my friends were all in the very professional range. They were either top fuel or funny car. Those are the 2 top classes in drag racing. And all of my friends were there. I was down at Class B gas, and they're all fuel. And the difference between gas and fuel is night and day. It's like the difference between a propeller airplane and a jet airplane. So anyway, so I would tear the car apart on Thursday after work all evening long, and go back to work on Friday, come home, reassemble the car Friday night and Saturday morning. Get the car back together and running at my townhouse in time to be out at the racetrack when it opened at noon on Saturday. And then we'd run the car. Since Saturday's the bigger day at the racetrack, it took you longer to get 4 runs in. Usually it would take from noon until well into the evening. Bring the car home, and then Sunday, the car came apart again. Monday and Tuesday, it went back together again to make another run on Wednesday.
Wow.
So that was my life when I had a professional driver's license.
And what years do you think this is, like the mid-60s or?
No, this is in the 70s now. This was, I built the car before my father died. He died in '74. I had the car running before he died, but I had not taken it to the drag strip yet. And then I got my license then, I want to say 75, 76, I ran the car
Gotcha.
and I had a license.
Gotcha. And how many years did you have this one car?
I got rid of it and went to a different race car. I went from the dragster to what's called a pro stock. And this is, pro stock was when I built the dragster, that was the thing to have. By the time I got rid of the dragster, the thing to have was what's called a pro stock. And the biggest thing in pro stock at the time was either a Falcon with a big engine in it, or a Nova, or possibly a Pinto, cars of that size. So I ended up trading my dragster for a pro stock car that a guy was building. He hadn't finished it yet, and so I bought that, and it was a Vega with a big Chevy V8 in it, because that was the thing to have then. Well, when I bought it, it was running, but that's all. And it wasn't going to make it at the drag strip yet. So that engine came out and torn apart, and most of it scrapped, and built a new engine, new transmission, everything. So then I kept that until I was divorced from my first wife. I had left my wife, got a divorce, and was marrying another woman. So then I got rid of that pro stock car, and I built another kit car, if you will.